Hey, I'm Patrick Evers and I'm the founder and CEO of Mindmaven. And I wanted to talk to you today about one of the most simple but powerful tactics in relationship marketing: writing great follow-up emails. But first, let me ask you a question. If you invest 30 to 60 minutes of your time meeting with somebody, would you agree it's a good idea to send them a follow-up email? See, in my experience, most people would agree with that statement. Yet, few actually act on it. And the question is really, why is that? What gets into the way? Well, in my world, it's a very simple answer. It's one word, and that is urgency. The urgency and the reactivity of our day-to-day lives often leaves no room for the truly important and proactive tasks, like investing into our relationships by sending something as simple as a follow-up email. All right? So, think about it. This probably isn't the first time you've heard about the idea of sending follow-up email. And it probably isn't the first time you've actually tried it. But then something stopped, right? What happened? You probably did well for the first couple of days, maybe even first week or two when you said, I'm going to do this. But then something happened. Right? Maybe a crisis arose, you had to put out a fire, I don't know. But something demanded so much of your time and energy that follow-up emails stopped being written. Eventually, the crisis ended, but the emails didn't start being sent again. Why? Because, it's the classic familiar story of proactive habits being crushed by the simple reactivity of our world before these habits were actually formed. So before I get into how to write a great follow-up email, let me give you a quick and easy tip how to turn this practice into a habit. Simply create a follow-up email draft before the meeting actually takes place. So let me put the example right here on the screen so you see what I'm seeing, because it's so simple. Right, so here it is, right? It says, hi Sachin, thanks for meeting with me today. I enjoyed our meeting very much and look forward to meeting with you again. Cheers, Patrick. Horrible follow-up email. But as you can see, the draft isn't very detailed or personal, and that's why I called it horrible. In fact, you probably never want to send an email like this because it's sort of the bottom feeder level. But a lot of people do. And, it's okay. Because right now it only serves as a reminder. You can then basically still always flash out this email after the meeting. So, all right, with that tip out of the way, let's talk about how we can actually write really effective follow-up email, like really good ones. Broadly speaking, there are basically three components that you need to basically know about when it comes to follow-up email. Component number one is a thank you component. Component number two is what I call the common ground reference. And then the third element is summing up the key takeaways. Okay? So let's take a look at each of those and we'll start with the gratitude one, the thank you component. This might seem a little given, right? Most people do it since the most basic emails always express some form of gratitude. It's just common practice. But there's a difference between saying thanks and actually meaning it. So here's an example. Here's what I mean with that. Let's take a look. All right. So it says, hi Sachin again. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. I really learned a lot from your suggestions. I never realized that the barrier to getting autonomous semi-trucks on the road was more about infrastructure than actually technology. It's actually kind of exciting to think we'll see autonomous private cars on the road sooner than trucks. Thanks for sharing that with me. Using an opening phrase like, thank you for taking the time to meet with me today, I really learned a lot, is a great place to start. But as you can see, what you want is you want to get as personal and as specific as you can possibly do to make a very powerful impact. The more specific you are, the better. At the end of the day, gratitude is one of the most powerful ways to form a connection. The key is that this gratitude, however, has to feel exceptionally genuine. Anyway, let's move on to the common ground aspects. They say opposites attract, but what typically really happens is what connects to people. And that's basically what's more important to look at. Here at Mindmaven, for example, we call these shared interests common ground themes. And you definitely want to highlight them in your emails, right? It's exceptionally powerful. So let me put another example on the screen and we'll see that, right? Again, I enjoyed our meeting very much and particularly loved hearing about how CrossFit has changed your life. It definitely done the same for me over the past few years. See, the thing is, when you include something of common ground in your emails, you accomplish two huge wins. Not only do you make your emails look very, very personalized, you also instantly create an avenue for a connection, a very powerful connection, that is. So here's how this works in my view. When someone discovers that they share common ground with you, such as drinking fine wine, right, or taking CrossFit classes, as we had in this example, or even something exceptional like soaring through the skies in a glider, it causes them to think one thing, and that is they think, I am like you. See, but our brain translates that thought into I like you instantly and dramatically improves your likability scores. Basically, to our brain, I am like you is nothing else but I like you. So, super powerful. Let's get to the key takeaways as our third component, right? Because that gives you an opportunity to show that you are absolutely recommitted to this relationship, that you are willing to go the extra mile. And that's why it's so powerful. So let's take, again, a great look at one of our examples, right? Here's, besides getting to know you a lot better, here are the 4 key takeaways from our meeting. Number 1, you are in need of hiring great engineers and find that very difficult to accomplish in today's economy. Number 2, we agreed to meet next week to discuss how we could work together to overcome these challenges. Number 3, I offered to introduce you to Riviera Partners, one of the top engineering recruiting firms in the Silicon Valley. And then finally, I promised to send you my article on proactive time management, so you could better carve out time for, the relationships you have, your network in this case. See, as you can see, the key takeaway sections underscores the value of the meeting by summarizing all commitments given and received. In addition, this component actually serves as an informal agreement, if you will, between the two of you to follow through on those commitments. These commitments really could be anything, it doesn't matter. It could be absolutely anything from agreeing to another meeting, to sending an article, to making an introduction. But by capturing them in your follow-up email, you are creating a commitment trail, allowing you to keep close tabs on the status. So I hope you see how these 3 components work together to create a email that your recipient are absolutely likely to perceive as relevant, valuable, and meaningful. And at the very least, it's much, much better than sending no email at all, right? So let me leave you with one final tip. The most important rule in relationship marketing is being genuine and staying completely authentic. So if you went through some of my examples or saw them and you had this thought in your head, is like, I never would write this in that way, just ask yourself, well, how would I communicate gratitude? How would I establish common ground? And what's my style of summing up the key takeaways? We all have to find our own style. So go ahead and find yours. But please do me this favor and start following up. So for more on how to write great follow-up email, please check out the link in the description below. And also visit my blog, right? It's mindmaven.com/blog. And you'll see great content there similar to this. So thanks for watching. and goodbye.